and welcome back to the Created Studios podcast. I'm your host with the most, Jordan Mode, and today we're going to have a fantastic conversation in the world of A&R and, well, the music production world and the music industry. Today, we have a very special guest. He's an A&R legend. He's a Full Sail alumni, might as well be Hall of Famer. He's the one and only Chris Martignago. Chris, thank you so much for doing this, man.
Yes, thank you for having me. That's very nice of you.
And we mastered our synchronized claps on this
1,000%. That's my favorite. That's like if I'm going to be talking about that over dinner later.
I love it. One thing you said before, you're like A&R guys are. You said they're like failed musicians, and I'm like, or were they successful? Because I really think they chose the right path.
I don't know. I mean, it's like it's to each their own. It's like, I feel like you find your way. I feel like in music, for most people like me, you go and you see a show and you're just like, I want to be a part of that. And you think your only options are like be in the band or be in the audience.
It's true.
And then you just learn about, like, for me, I just like, oh, and this person like books the shows, and the talent buyer is different than the person who's like convincing the venue to do it. And you just start to learn about all the different roles that get everything to tick. So,
it's true. And, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because I've spent some time in the professional world at BMI and stuff like that, and sync licensing, but that's a world that took me forever to learn about. And I think, especially with A&R, people always think it's like, oh, only an elite few people can ever get into that world. And, and actually there's a more sustainable career path than you really think there is. And obviously, Chris, you've spent a decade and then some time in the A&R world, and I really want to dive into the beginning, where it all began for you, not A&R but music. Like, what got you started in music and you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do for a living?
Man, I feel like what got me started in music and what I want to do for a living were like kind of two different things for a while. Because I don't know that anybody really gets into music being like, oh, I'm going to make so much money off of this. Some people might, but I definitely was not one of them, because I just wasn't like, I just didn't think that way. I was like not great with money as a kid. Like I spent every dollar I had on like whatever video game, whether it was Kingdom Hearts or the new Final Fantasy or whatever game that was coming out. And then music for me was seeing a show, like I said, and being like, oh, I want to be a part of this. And that band was a band called Burden of a Day.
Okay.
They were like a Rise Records darling. And it was kind of crazy timing, because the band was putting out, they were like being courted by this label. And so when you would go to these shows, people would talk about it. But it wasn't like, most of the time when you talk about an artist, like a fan is rarely like, you know what label they're on? Like, they don't talk about it. So it was like, that was my first, like, I'd seen record label logos on stuff before, but I didn't have any context for it. I was just like, oh, that's on like the Black Eyed Peas CD that I bought at FYE or whatever. This is aging myself at this point. So yeah, like having that human element of it was like, I would always hear this stuff. But again, I wasn't thinking about making money at this point. I was just like, oh, I'm going to be in a band. I can't play anything, so that must mean I'm a singer. and the tone of my voice, if somebody's talking to me, like the last thing they're going to be like is like, you must be a singer, or you must like do a podcast or a radio show. That's not the thing. But turns out in pop punk, you can have a nasally voice, and
oh, absolutely, you can.
And it's like almost like a prerequisite. So I feel like that is what got my start in it. And I was just, I played in bands, and I was obsessed with the culture of like playing shows, meeting people at the shows, meeting other bands, other artists. And that was the thing that I started, like, as I was doing that, you would hear about like managers, you would hear about agents, you'd hear about labels and all this stuff. You didn't really hear about publishers at that point.
No.
And then honestly, I was in college, technically on like a pre-med path, because I thought, oh, maybe I'll be a doctor, but I was really bad at that part. I would have been a terrible doctor. And so I was just torn in this, like, I'm failing school, paying money to try to learn this thing, to make that my career.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm like, you know, going from 16, I'm going to be 21 soon at this point. And I'm like, all I want to do is like deal with music and play music somehow. And that was really the first time that I was like, oh, maybe I could find a way to like turn the thing that I just really naturally like doing into something that actually makes money.
Yeah.
And that's where the Full Sail conversation came in, honestly, because I was like, I came to my parents and I was like, look, I know I just spent a bunch of time. And by the way, I definitely skipped more classes than you think I did. I want to give it a shot at doing this. And I was very fortunate to have the support of them to be like, you know, sure, like, you know, we'll help you out.
Yeah. Like
help you secure the loans and whatnot for like moving to Orlando and go to the school. And that changed everything for me. So that was like the first step into like, that's what I meant by like two different things. Cause like mentally when I was like in the band, that was what I would like do for fun. And then I had to do this like crappy thing that was like a job working at like Tijuana Flats or Dairy Queen, or I've had a job since I was 14.
Oh, wow.
So I like feel like I'm a boomer where I'm like, oh, I had this job.
When I was 14.
Yeah, when I was 14, I was bussing at Cheeseburger, which is true.
Oh, I love Cheeseburger.
Yeah, it was just true. Yeah.
So like when you first went to Full Sail, what was like your first reaction? Because like when I first went, I remember I was about 23, 24, and I remember just being so overwhelmed by how like not even like the place was amazingly immaculate, but like the buzz, the energy, the vibe, like it was just like it was flooding with creativity. Kind of the same way when I came to Nashville, I got that same kind of hit. Was that kind of the same for you, or what did you feel when you?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time I was in a place where I was around a bunch of people who maybe didn't care about the same things that I cared about, but there was like a community aspect to it where it was like everyone was there. I would say largely because maybe they didn't fit into like a traditional school system. Like I loved the like being in a class for 4 hours thing because it's like, again, I've had a job since I was 14. So it was like, that felt more normal to me than being in a class about like zoology or oceanography or calculus for like 45 minutes. And it's like, great, now go home and do this for 2 hours. I'm like, I don't care at all
good, man.
about this. So it was cool. It was the first time being around a bunch of people who had a motivation to learn and accomplish whatever path they were on.
That's amazing.
So that was that like for me. And then, same thing with Nashville. It's like I felt that way similarly when I moved up here. It was a very similar feeling to like first day of school. I'm like, I'm in Nashville. It's crazy.
It's someone once told me when I first came out here to visit Nashville, they were like, it was some random guy. I forget who it was, but they looked at me and they're like, is this your first time here? I was like, yeah, man, I just come to check it out. I'm like, I'm so overwhelmed. Like, it's crazy. And he's like, yeah, this is Nashville where this is the starting line. And it's up to you to if you're going to finish the race or not. I was like, that's like a great quote, man.
I'm loving all these quotes along the way.
I know,
1,000%.
right, man? I'm a quote guy. I live off of quotes. I'm sorry.
No, there's nothing to apologize about that. I feel like to each their own. I love quotes too. I just like succinct things that convey sometimes a complex idea, and sometimes like literally just saying that sentence could mean so many things to so many different people. Oh yeah,
and I'm like, I don't even know who this guy was. I was just buying like a drink at the bar for my girlfriend at the time, and he's just like, he said that, and I'm like, you know, that's kind of a good point. I'm like, yeah, like there's how many? What did they say? 111 people move here every day, and over 1,000 leave here every day. You know, with broken dreams or something like that.
I don't know the stats at all. Again, I told you I did not do well in calculus.
Okay, but like I remember one of my buddies saying that to me when I first moved out here. He's like, so just know the odds are stacked against you, but like Nashville's a place where you can make a living and do this and like really pursue your dreams. And Man, they're so right on that though.
Yeah.
But let's jump back a little bit. So when you were in Full Sail, going through, you went to for music business.
Yeah, the music
Okay.
business, the bachelor's program,
Very cool.
MBBS.
Is that what it is?
I think that's what it's. I should know. I'm almost done with my loans on it. It's crazy.
I know. I got 10 years.
Look, I like anytime somebody brings it up, I'm like, I wouldn't do anything any different. But yeah, it was MBBS. I think I should know again because I see it on the paper.
No, but like it's cool to hear that perspective because I mean I almost went for music business myself. I ended up going for music production, but I just remember one thing that blew my mind was because I think in the production program you get about a month or two where they talk about the industry, like the business side of it, but like when I first went in, I was really into publishing and like sync and PROs and I really wanted to go do
Like when
that.
you first went to school?
Yeah, when I first went to school because I was studying it all by my own. Because I was doing it for my bands I was in. I'm like, yeah, someone has to put this out. Someone has to know how to get us paid. Someone has to do this and that. So I just got so interested in it. And I actually remember like going through those classes and I'm like, this is homework? I'm like, okay, I'm done. You know? And the kid's like, how do you know this? I'm like, well, I've been studying this for like a decade. It's like so interesting.
Yeah.
And when you first got into like when you got into the program, like what was like something that like what got you excited about that whole side of it? Like what was like that was the moment where I knew this is what I wanted to do.
Man, honestly, I feel like the thing that I love about school and a school like Full Sail is, again, my experience with music was seeing a band and being like, I want to be a part of it and not having a fundamental understanding of what it is.
Yeah.
So it's very simply the thing that I loved about Full Sail was every class that I took, I would dive into, but I pretty quickly knew like, not for me. Like I'm like I thought maybe for a second I was like, oh, the touring thing is interesting, especially when you're young. Like the idea of like, oh, I can go in like
Travel the
a
world.
car or a van and like go travel and like book the bands and like go around and go to all these places every day. Now as a mid-30s person, I'm like, that sounds terrible. And
Horrible.
I absolutely don't want to be on tour.
Yeah.
No offense. Like I have friends who are my age or older that love being on tour and that's great. Again, I want to play some video games, hang out with my family, and be home. So the point that I was trying to make is going to Full Sail, and the thing that excited me the most was like I got to try all of these different classes that showed me different parts of it. Mm-hmm. And then I was able to say, I connect with this, I connect with that. I feel like I'm a very emotionally connected person where and my wife makes fun of me for this because it's like if I see something, I don't have to see, like if we're shopping apartments and I see a picture or something, it's something happens to me where I'm like, that's the thing. Mm-hmm. And I can't really be talked off of it. When we were dating or before we dated, we went to go see cats at a shelter together. Okay. And when we walked in, I remembered hearing a meow and I couldn't even see the cat. It was up on the tallest, it was still being brought in.
Oh, wow.
And it was a kitten in this like top shelf thing. And I had like stepped up on the thing and saw the cat and I was like, this is my cat. And she was like, we haven't looked at any of the other cats. And I was like, I know, but I feel like this is the one. And then we go around there. And I think even in my job, I think I just naturally do that. So I think when A&R, which I didn't know was a thing until Steve Robertson at Atlantic came to the school to speak. And I got the opportunity to be able to like be in the room. Yeah. I feel like we hit it off immediately because we both react very similarly to music. I didn't know that day. Yeah. But when I look back and I think about why did we connect so well and that I was there for a long time and maybe other people weren't, that's the only thing I can think of is that I think how he is as a creative and as an A&R person and a partner in that, he's very much emotionally connected. Like he's able to sort of tap into that part of himself that's like hard to explain what it is. You just kind of trust it.
That's amazing. And that was because of a class or that was a lecture he was doing at the school, yeah?
Yeah, it was, I don't even know what you would call it. It was like a guest
speaker event?
Guest speaker event, like where he came in and he was we were in a conference room and there were 12 of us and it was like almost like in a circle, and he was just explaining like what A&R is, what he does. And that was really the first time
Wow.
I like had heard. At that point I thought I was like, maybe I wanted to be a manager, because the class I was taking was an artist management class.
Oh, okay.
With Kristen Erickson at the time.
Okay.
I think I might be butchering her name, but she was very encouraging, and honestly, like I owe her a lot, because I think she was the one who advocated for me to be in that room.
Wow.
So yeah, thank you. You've seen it.
Yeah, and it's so funny because then like 10 years later, I'm sitting in your lecture, and I'm like, man, how do I get to his level?
Yeah, it's so funny. But no, the school thing, man, it was so cool to have not only the community aspect, but then to also just all these people like Israel, like understood merchandising and artists so well, and every teacher, like I learned so much about being a better presenter and speaker.
Yeah.
From the presentation class, like being able to learn about all of those things and what's really important. Because I feel like before I came to Full Sail, the amount of words I had on a slide was insane.
Really?
And yeah, because it's like in my brain, I'm like, oh yeah, you just like, because I had so many teachers that did that. It didn't even occur to me that maybe the teachers I had could have been good teachers, but not very good presenters or communicators.
That makes
in a way.
sense.
So
yeah.
they're sort of like, here's the information you need to know, and that's probably why I had a hard time learning, is I need that tie to something, and it made me realize, oh, when I'm talking or I'm presenting, I'm there for a reason. Like I'm not just like the assistant to the slide. So my point is, like, I feel like I got so much out of all of the classes, learned a lot about what I didn't want to do.
That's fair.
That's the shortest version of the answer to that.
No, I think that was great, man. And so then, like, you graduate from Full Sail, and you're like, okay, at that moment when you graduate, were you like, okay, I knew Nashville's the place for me, or were you looking at other places, or what was like the next step? Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, once again, a very emotional sort of like just follow where it was taking me, because at the time Steve-O had said something to me. I would work out of his home office, because there was no Atlantic office in Orlando, Florida, Winter Park. Mm-hmm. And he was very much like, you need a thing. If you're going to work on an island like Orlando in the music business, like, you need a thing that people come to you for, like, that adds value. And he was like, my thing was radio in the 90s. And he has a great radio voice. He would actually make a good podcast guest at some point.
Heck yeah. I love it.
But so he's like, you need a thing. And that thing for me was A&R research. And I started learning about data when it came to scouting talent, and sort of pairing the analytical side with that emotional thing. Because I was good at that.
Oh, yeah.
But the challenge that I came up against was like, okay, well, how do you sift through everything to even find a thing to be emotionally connected to?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where data can really help, at least bring some things to the surface. So I say that to say, because I invested my time into that, the company was getting more invested in A&R research at the time, and I was getting pressure to move to New York. Not like you have to. It was just like, hey, if you're going to do this, you shouldn't be in New York.
It's a big area for it, yeah.
Yeah, and also because our headquarters as a company at Atlantic was there at the time. It just moved from Avenue of the Americas over to the Broadway area. Yeah. And from there, I was just kind of scared of that idea. I was just like, that feels overwhelming. As like a kid, was just at the beach all the time.
Yeah.
Saw a band. Now I'm in this school, and now I have this role at a company that they like suddenly like. It's like that meme when suddenly you kind of like become too important at your job, so you're just like this like baby in the corner, and that's like how I felt. And then serendipitously, I was looking at apartments all the way to the point where like my girlfriend, now wife at the time, was looking. We were looking at apartments in Manhattan, and then I go into work one day and Steve-O has a somber look on his face, and he was like, I'm thinking of, my family and I are moving to Nashville next year. Or, yeah, I think because it was towards the end of the year that this went down. And I sort of just blurted out. I was like, great, me too. I just like, again, I literally don't know what that is. My wife knows it very well with me at this point. So I just connected with that idea. I'd been here once.
Yeah.
I'd been here on a tour with an artist I managed. And we played a house show, and I loved the community and the vibe. And again, that was 2014.
Okay.
Or no, 2013, I think, is when I first came to Nashville.
Wow.
Was 2013. And then, so yeah, I was like, yeah, I'd been there once, like for a day in like some random person's house listening to like Damien Rice covers. Let's do that.
Yeah,
And then
let's do it.
I was like, and he was like, really? I was like, I need to talk to Kristen, but I'm sure she'll be down. And I went home. And I was like, what do you think about moving to Nashville instead of New York? And she was in. So
Really?
she was down, and she because we both like music. For her, there was no reason for her to stay in Orlando. There wasn't a lot of like the music gigs that she wanted. Like it was hard for her to find them there. She was like booking some local venues, but she wanted to go and work at
Is she an artist?
company.
Or?
No, she currently works on the label side, but she
cool.
has a lot of background on the live side as well, working in the agency space.
Oh, that's
for
great.
touring.
Yeah. So, I mean, Nashville, I mean, come on, you can't beat it. I mean, this is touring Mecca right here.
Yeah, so we both moved here. I don't remember. Oh, why Nashville? That was it. It was literally like I was scared of my boss's boss in New York, like intimidated, I guess is the better word. And serendipitously, the idea of Nashville was said to me across the table, and I just latched onto it, and I was like, "Yep." And then that became my identity for 10 years.
No, but like you knew deep down, like if he's going there, I want to be there because there's something going on that I need to be around.
Yeah.
And like I think that's so cool to take that jump and like have the support system to be able to do that. And like weirdly enough,
I feel very privileged in that because I know so many people move here and they do it not knowing anyone.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
lucky to even know one person, you know.
Yeah, that was the same with me. I moved out here because one of my best friends moved out here, and he'd lived here his whole life, and he'd just lived in New York for a while, and he's like, dude, you should just come here and live, take my extra room at my apartment. I'll charge you nothing for it. I was like, that
Deal.
sounds great. Yeah.
You're like, deal.
And then he introduced me some people in town, and I was working at a studio in like 2 weeks, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is how it works here. And he was showing me through everyone. He's like, no, you got lucky.
Yeah.
I'm still grateful for Zach to this day for that. But yeah.
Shout out Zach.
Yes,
That's awesome.
The man, the legend there. But yeah, it's one of those things where like when you get to Nashville the very first time, and like yours was a little different because you said you were on tour. When I remember the first time I got here and I walked the streets downtown and I was walking through Music Row, I'll never forget it, walking to RCA and stuff and just going, oh my gosh, like you can just feel the history, the energy,
Records,
everything. Yeah. And like, I remember looking at one of the ladies at RCA with my wife, then girlfriend, and I was like, so like, how hard is it to get a job out here? And they go, what do you want to do? And I was like, anything. And they go, you'll find a job in a week. Like it's just come hang out. And honestly, it's you know,
when you're open like that,
yeah,
it's
just
like
anything.
I think it's when you get very specific, it can get more difficult. But
oh yeah,
that openness can lead to so many different doors opening.
But it's so cool that like you guys you're like on a whim, we're just gonna go try this and see what happens. Worst case scenario, we tried it and it worked out great for you though, man. I mean, it seems like
it's been amazing. You know, sometimes I do wonder. I'm like, what if I did live in New York, or like it's hard to fathom the idea of moving there now.
Yeah.
You know, like I love going through there, and I feel like I have such a good situation here.
Yeah.
Like with my like work-life balance stuff that I don't know. But the energy, it's just like I love cities. I love that kind of thing, and but maybe it's just enough for me to travel into them. So like I'm glad that Nashville's been like as cool to you as like I feel like it's been to me, because I genuinely love how much of a variety there is. It's not just only country stuff, you know?
Oh, agreed. Like I grew up in the Jersey, Philly, New York area, so I used to travel and play all up the seaboard. And I remember just like New York City was always a tough cookie. Like
Yeah.
if you could break in, like great, you're gonna do great things. But initially when I graduated, I was gonna go back up there because I really wanted to live in New York and like live that like metropolitan like music producer life, I guess, that I had in my head. But I just remember, you know, someone once told me that, you know, like I just remember going back in my head, I'm like, remember how hard it was to get a gig, let alone get a job out there? Like, how are you going to afford rent? You got bills to pay, you got loans to pay back, and like it was just stacking. And my wife at the time was living in Philly, and she loved her life in Philly. And I'm like, well, I could go work, maybe get a job at NFL Films or something. And then again, my buddy hit me up and he's like, why don't you just come live come live with me for a little while and see if you like it. And you know, I think you're so right with that. Like, if you know at least one person out here, you can really do a lot. Like, it open a lot of doors that maybe
It's probably like any city, I would imagine. It's like I feel like with the internet, you could kind of be anywhere, and I think the pandemic made a lot of people rethink, or at least just evaluate their own lives and be like, what do I like? Why am I here?
Yeah.
Like, what do I want out? Like, I don't think a lot of people, especially in music, thought about their environment. They just sort of were like, oh, well, I have to be in LA or New York to do this. And I think the pandemic really changed a lot of that. And it's like I'm going to a music conference in Charlotte tomorrow. So it's like Charlotte's been a player in the music scene for a minute.
A while, yeah.
But not a lot of people, like people's first thought when they think of like, I'm going to move somewhere and work in music isn't usually Charlotte.
Yeah.
But I think people in Charlotte are doing a really good job of showcasing their talent and showing that there are companies here that are like moving the needle and doing
That's awesome.
interesting things. And I love that, because I feel like as we've gotten more global and like everybody goes to Spotify and looks at the same playlists, it's nice that you can still have these like scenes that you have that like human connection to it, you know, on the other side of everything AI.
Do you think, especially after COVID, when it comes to the music like the music world, like the professional side, do you think it still matters so much to be in one of the big cities, or do you think it's like you could kind of do this anywhere as long as you're, you know what you're doing and you have the drive to really build it for yourself?
I would just say yes to everything you said, because the things that are beneficial about being in a city like Nashville, LA, New York, London, et cetera, is infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Like if you build out your career in a way that you need a team and you thrive on being in person with that team, it's fundamentally or theoretically easier if you're in the same town as them. However, I think if you are a great communicator and you're organized and intentional, I think you absolutely can do it anywhere, as long as you make sure to look at your team and where you're building them out and like find ways to spend that time. That might look like being maybe on more flights because you end up like having to go to where they are to check in and like show face and everything like that, or really be a clear communicator on phone calls, emails, texts. I mean, there's so many ways, Zooms, we can do it so many different ways now. So I think the infrastructure still gives you that, like, you can't be just like, if you're in the room, somebody's like, it's that like out of sight, out of mind thing. If they see you walking down the hallway as an A&R person, they're going to be like, oh, I owe that person a response to their email. But me living on an island, I had to get really good at following up because I knew that somebody was looking at the hallway and being like, oh, I need to follow up on that email. But if I don't have my version of being in the hallway, like that's have a reason to like remember sometimes, you know, because
Yeah.
everyone has to come up with their own way to prioritize stuff. So I think the quickest way we as humans do it is like, oh, what's right in front of me, you know?
And like when you started really diving into the A&R world, did you feel like 'cause we've had some people come in here who were like, oh, I've tried to reach out to A&R people, they never get back to me. I'm like, was it one of those things? Like I've never been in the A&R side, so I'm not very knowledgeable of that end. But like, is it really what they say, where it's like you get 1,000 emails a day, or is it more like it's more structured? It's more, you know, you have your bands that you're looking at or your artists you're looking at, and you know, you don't really get the unsolicited stuff.
No, you definitely get solicited like pretty often. And I mean, I definitely don't think it's an exaggeration when you're talking about like hundreds, 1,000 emails a day. Like that doesn't feel like an exaggeration necessarily. But as far as, because the question, remind me, is about like, is it really like that way that people are just kind of like hitting me constantly?
Yeah, like
or
are
hitting
you just
A&R
like
people?
you're opening up your email in the morning, you got like 50 bands trying to send their EPKs to you right now, like, hey, my band needs to be on your label.
Yeah, more so when I was on the label side, but now it's a lot of like, it might be a manager or a lawyer or a songwriter being like, I'm a great songwriter, or I represent a great songwriter, producer, or artist that's looking for a new publisher or their first publishing deal or
Yeah.
something like that. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that is inbound that kind of places you into a position where you have to be reactionary. Like,
Okay.
what am I going to respond to? In what order?
Yeah.
How am I responding? You know? And then there's outbound, like, what am I proactively doing? Like, what are my goals? What am I going after? So my advice a lot of times, whenever somebody's reaching out to an A&R person, whether they want a prospective publishing partner or a label partner, a lot of emails kind of look like, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm incredible, and here's my music, like sign me, effectively. There's like some version of that.
Yeah.
It could be very long, it could be short, literally just be like, I'm dope, and then it's like a link to music. I've seen everything.
Really?
It's
That's crazy. Yeah.
And but the thing that I think about it a lot because I empathize, because it's like a lot of times like no one teaches you how to send an email.
They don't.
And even in school, you don't really get a lot of like experience doing that, like the cold reach out, right? So I think people kind of just like flail a bit, and they're just like, I mean,
I'm just trying my best
yeah,
here.
I'm just gonna send it. But like, if there was advice that I'd give on that, or like the types of emails I've been more inclined to react or respond to, is when, because I think you could boil down that email that we just talked about to 3 words, and that's give me something. Like that's all I see in that email.
Yeah.
Give me something. And someone that does what I do, and there are people who are busier than me, there are people who are lazier than me that are going to see that email, and they've got things that they need to do.
Yeah.
And then you just have somebody being like, give me something.
Yeah, and
you
that's
know?
not the relation. It's a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and ultimately, like all these people, like are all, and it also comes across like you want me to like hire you to do something, but I view artists and songwriters and producers as like CEOs. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not like looking at applications and just being like, you have a job, like you have
Yeah.
success. Like that's not how it works. It's like we're partners.
Yes.
So I'm looking for
The ROI.
I'm looking for executives or like people who have the ability to act that way. And I think good executives and good partners are people, and this is even in relationships, is it's not always like, give me something. It's like, this gets back to the advice part, which is, I think, any way you can shift that email so that when you are putting yourself in the other person's shoes, and if it sounds like, if you read that and it's like, I'm asking for something, you can accomplish so much more by being like, I have something to just give you that and change it to like give you something instead of give me something. It's like suddenly it kind of takes away the selfish connotation because there's nothing wrong necessarily with being selfish. I just think it's like a little presumptuous to just believe that someone just has the time.
And welcome back to the Creative Studios podcast. We're hanging out, having an epic conversation about A&R with the one and only Chris Martignago. And I just want to take a moment to shout out another one of our sponsors, FUTUREBEAN Coffee. Every day I come to the studio, it's the first thing I do in the morning is grab a cup of Joe from FUTUREBEAN. Is probably some of the best coffee I've ever had in my life. Close to Black Rifle. I'm sorry, I still love Black Rifle.
No, the cookies are so good.
The cookies too. But move over, Duncan. There's a new coffee in town. All right, Chris. So we've been talking a little bit about just how you got into A&R world, like what you look for in artists, that gets you thrive and hyped up for. But I want to fast forward to now. Like, so what do you got going on now?
Yeah, so I had left the label space in 2021. So I was at Atlantic for almost a decade, and in figuring out what I wanted to do next, that was it was kind of a scary time because I didn't necessarily, it was scary to leave. Again, I was like such an emotionally tied like person and had to learn a lot about identity. And when you do things that you love, I think it can be hard. And especially when you work at a company for so long, it can be hard for you to like think about yourself outside of the context of the things you just do on a daily basis. Meaning like when I would talk to somebody or the way I would think people would talk about me, they'd say Chris from Atlantic or whatever. That would be my identity was wrapped in that. So when I was leaving Atlantic, I was just Chris.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
I didn't know what I wanted to do next because all I had ever done was that.
Was that hard for you to make that transition?
Absolutely. I had such an identity crisis in it because what led to it was my contract was coming up, pandemic was happening, TikTok was becoming the next big thing, company went public, and there was a lot of pressure now on that research department I had helped build to sign TikTok people and everything, and like sign like a lot.
Yeah.
And I could do it. I didn't want to do it. And I felt like I'd been there for almost 10 years and I felt like I had added creative energy into projects and I felt that those were doing well enough to justify, hey, I'm putting plaques on my wall with one hand building this other thing. Like, what if I didn't build that and I just got to be creative? And it really hurt. They were very kind to me, by the way, about not giving me a new contract. But it did hurt my feelings because I felt like by them not giving me a new contract that they didn't value my creativity.
Which is crazy.
That's the way that I felt. That's not true. And also they're a massive corporation and they have to think about the future and they wanted people who were just down for this thing. And they were really kind to me, but I was very proud of myself and my wife was very supportive and being like, that's not what you want to do. It's okay if we have to figure it out for a while. So honestly, I felt lost. I felt like scared because being in Nashville, I was just like, I don't like what other, like during the pandemic, all the companies are like, they're not starting up new things right now.
No. Yeah.
So I don't know. I had to kind of find a way to remember why I loved doing this and going back to that like first show I saw. So I'd started a community online called Hell Yes, and that was based on the backs of the idea was one of my coworkers at Atlantic had a sticky note, Jeanette. She had a sticky note on her desk that said, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no or something. And it was just like this emotionally charged thing. And I remembered seeing that on the desk on a sticky note. And I was just, or at least my memory was it was a sticky note. It could have just been a piece of paper that she penned on the board. And I just remembered that viscerally. And I was like, I'm just going to start streaming on Twitch and give A&R advice. And, maybe one person will come and get something out of that.
I would totally
and the
watch
idea
that, just
the
saying.
idea wasn't like, and I would always start off the stream of like the whole point of this. It's not. I'm not trying to sign anyone.
Yeah.
I'm not marketing myself as some A&R guru that's going to change your life. I literally just, if you want to come and talk about what you're making and talk about how it could be maybe better, or just talk about ideas, that's what this is. And a lot of people started coming, and regularly, and I did that every week for 3 years.
That's amazing.
But I did that as I was leaving Atlantic, and through that, it really gave me the confidence so that when Prescription Songs and that conversation started happening with Dr. Luke and Katie and Rhea and everything, Katie Fagan, I felt like I had to, that community gave me the confidence I needed to like go into those conversations and be like, oh, I could do this, and my creativity, and that has value, you know.
That's
and like
awesome,
me
man.
as a person, Chris, like I'm not just Chris at Prescription, or Chris at Hell Yes, or Chris at Atlantic. I'm just Chris.
But that's
and I'm
cool.
excited about music.
Yeah, because like I think even as artists, producers, whatever you are, it can be. It's like you're so close to what you do, and it's something that you love so much that it becomes a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
And when something changes in that life, it kind of feels like you are losing a part of who you were, and you're trying to find that identity can be so tough. But when you find it's like, no, I'm still Chris. I got so much knowledge in this industry and like so much to offer, and I think like,
all of us go through it, and it's like a very real, like, because I do think people think A&R people are like just like ordained by like some wizard that they're like, you're like, but you really do kind of just fall into it. But I think it's people who are just like nerds about music in some capacity, or at least I like to believe that.
No, yeah, and I think that's super cool, because I kind of feel like I remember you posting something. I think I was on Instagram or something. You posted about the Prescription Songs when you first were putting that together. I thought that was so cool, man. Like, do you have a moment to talk about like what it is like that you do with Prescription Songs?
Yeah, so Prescription Songs is a publishing company started by Dr. Luke, and it was started about 16 years ago now. So relative to other music publishers, pretty young company, independent. We're adminned by Cobalt as of the time of this recording. But the whole company is built on creative. So everyone, it's largely A&R staff. And then we have business affairs, we have a finance guy, we have GM, and we have some like fundamentally important roles filled, but the bulk of the staff is all people like me that just love music, and we put sessions together and songs. And I was up until 2 last night getting an artist onto a plane this morning to do a session. Like today they're in right now, and hopefully it goes well, because it was a long night. And there's so many of us that do that, so we are designed to empower and support songwriters at the core. Some of them are producers, some of them are also artists, like Doja Cat, Kim Petras, and then some Ethel Cain, and then Lauv also. Some of them are more straight up producers, like Von Oliver. For anyone who uses Splice, he does a lot of the like Power Tools packs. He's part of Oliver.
Oh wow!
If you ever go on that, and so many great producers, JT Daly, Tony Esterly, like the list goes on and on. It's a publishing company started by a producer, one of the greatest producers, you know. It's like him, Max Martin, and then the next people that are like, this list came out recently of like most influential producers of the past, I think, century or decade. I can't remember what it was. It might have been century or decade, and it was Max, Luke, and then everyone after that, like the next 10 or 12 people were all people they signed or helped bring up. So it's like I feel like that publishing for me allowed me to think about the difference now is working at the label. I worked on like puzzles with like artists they needed a piece. So like I need to get a single. I need to get the right producer. I need to get the mix right. So it's like puzzles looking for pieces, and now I work with pieces looking for puzzles. So it's like you have these people who are like an amazing producer, but like, who's that artist that they fit with? Or there's this incredible song that I can't stop thinking about where could it live, you know?
Exactly.
And it's, I would say it's a lot more overwhelming as far as the options now with doing the publishing thing. Like A&R, the roster kind of dictates your focus.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit different. Like the market and like what is going on sort of dictates your focus. I felt very fortunate that my situation of chasing the thing that makes me excited about stuff kind of just kept continuing, and that theme of just following my gut instinct on what I should do. Because I feel like now, you're so aware of all the options out there in the world, and it's overwhelming because you feel like you have to choose, and then when you choose, you feel like maybe you might feel like you'll be stuck or something. I don't know why people don't choose. Like it's maybe the paralysis by analysis thing. I don't know what it is. But the biggest piece of advice that I'd say is like I think so many times people are waiting for the job before they start doing the job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And especially with A&R, I think so many people think like I have so many great ideas and I can find so many great artists if only a label. It's like there's nothing stopping you from reaching out to these artists and being a fan. I think you just kind of have to identify why are you doing it. Like this is like a very A&R specific one, but you can build these relationships with producers, with songwriters, with artists. You don't need a company to enable you to do that. And you certainly like, does it get easier if there's an email that says at Atlantic or at Prescription Songs? 1,000%.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
it gets easier. But you don't need everybody to answer you. You just need a few people, and you just need to do the work, because I think when you go into interviews and you're able to show that you're doing it, I think that's what they mean when there's always that meme that's like, well, like they want you to have experience, but you need to get the job to have experience. I don't subscribe to that at all, because I think when I was interning at Atlantic, I was working 4 different part-time jobs, and I picked the jobs that I went for specifically to like I could drop any of these at any moment. Like I designed my life around like Atlantic is my priority. They're not paying me right now because it's an internship.
Yeah.
But and I'm in school. But I need money for rent and food and just surviving, And I was doing that, but meanwhile I was interning at Atlantic, and then they weren't like handing me Paramore records to work on.
Oh yeah.
Like, sure, was I hearing stuff in the background? 1,000%. But so I was just like, oh, they're not going to hand me something. Even being at the earliest stages at a company, they're not going to hand you something. So I was just like, oh, I'm just going to like A&R this record for this artist that isn't on a label and like could use the help,
Absolutely.
Connect them with a producer and help them make the record. And then it becomes a no-brainer for the company to be like, oh, he's doing that. We should just give him records to do, or a job, whether I think it applies to so many different things. Like I would imagine with something like this, it's like especially with something like this, like a creative, I think allows for being like, oh, like I would love to work at a media firm, and it's like, oh, maybe you do a podcast here.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to get into mixing and outmost mixing, but you don't really like have the space. Like
We got one here. Yeah.
so it's just like so many things where I feel like there's more options than ever. So it's the shortest version of that advice is don't wait for somebody to give you the job before you start doing it.
That's so good.
Because I think that's the only way It's like you kind of have to do it, and you'll know pretty quickly if you love it or not. Because imagine doing the job hunt and finally somebody says yes, and then you have to build trust in that company to finally do the thing that you think you want to do, and then you do it and you're like, actually, I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
Like that sounds worse to me than just doing it on a Gmail. Like just do that. It's like it feels so simple. And again, there's so many scenarios that make it really hard. Like you could be a single parent and you really want to get into this, and you have a kid to take care of, and you only have like an hour
Yeah.
to yourself to do something about it, like between your full-time job, being a parent, all that stuff. But you have that hour, like,
Oh yeah.
and if you don't want to do it, that's okay. But I'm just sort of like, I just think so many people think it has to look one way.
Exactly.
And there's so many ways it can look now.
I agree, because I would never got my job at BMI when I worked there if it wasn't for all those years of studying PROs, doing it for bands for free because I wanted to get paid. You know, like,
which is so smart. And again, you did that. You probably didn't even think about when you went into the class, like, oh, this would apply.
No, not at all.
Point.
Just like, I have to know this so I can be smart about my music later on. And like, and that was just
not
me.
A lot of people think that way.
Yeah.
That's a smart way to be.
And it was more just good. And I Googled it and studied it, anything I could find, books, whatever. And I was just like, and the technology and the information's out there. It's just, again, how bad do you want it? And how bad do you want to work towards it? And like,
there's definitely easier ways to make money.
Oh yeah. But if you're in the music industry, nothing's easy.
It's such a passion thing. And, again, it's like, I think the other thing that people don't teach you is like everything when you're starting out is so much simpler because you don't have as many responsibilities. And even if the responsibilities you do, when you do have them, there are ways to work through that. There's so many examples of it in the music business. But at the same time, I'm trying to remember what my point was on that. It's like, when you start going through but no, it's just it's just like the not waiting for it, and then also not discounting, like just being open to like stuff. The fact that you have this, like you've been able to be like, okay, like there's the BMI thing, and then moving over to create it, and then also just not assuming that like you already like like everyone knows so much more than they think they do.
Yeah.
Like we're all inundated with information all the time, and it's just the difference of applying it or not. And I think that's what I was going to say was that, no one's making you do it. You kind of have to like find that way that like inspires you. And I feel like if you just chase more all the time or have to make it this big impact, I think it's hard for anyone to define what success is. It's like, I think if there's anything that's marked if I could judge or be like why I've had any success for myself has been like, I just every year reevaluate like what would success look like for me this year, and not based on somebody else's stuff. There are people who are way more successful than me. They make more money than me. They have more things than me.
Yeah.
And are they happier? Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. But it's like, it's just, I think we just measure each other so much by those things. And I think the conversation of like hearing how your love of music has led you through these different areas, I feel like it's the same thing,
I love that.
Being able to like have that excitement.
And I see a lot of that in you too, man. Like where you started as a guy just playing in bands because you loved music, and now you get to bring dreams to life with that, like in a certain aspect. And like what you're doing now is so cool, man. And like, dude, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. And like, when I was getting the write-up sheet, I saw your name in there. I'm like, oh, I knew this was going to be a good one, man. But
no, I'm pumped. Thank you so much for having me on I really feel strongly about what Create It is doing, like not only here, but in all the spaces that it's going to be in. Heck
yeah, man. And we'd love to have you back anytime, man. And don't be a stranger. Come in, hang out. You want to teach a class here, or you want to come in and use the studios, or just come and say what's up, man. You're family here, man. We'd love to have you back. It. And real quick before we end it, where can people find you if they want to follow you or like,
funny enough, the last band I was in was called Voices, fun fact, and that's why my handle on pretty much everything is Voices Chris.
Okay.
So Voices, plural, Chris, Chris, and then,
That's awesome, man.
It's me on pretty much everything. And I kept it just because I was like, that's what you did when you were in a band, in a pop punk band. It was like band name and your name.
Hey, if it works, it works. Am I right?
So, now people are like, yo, he hears voices or some. I don't know. People come up with reasons why it is what it is, but I literally was just in a a band that I had a lot of fun in. That's what that is.
No, it's so cool, man. Chris, thank you again so much for being a part of the Creative Studios podcast. And that will wrap up today's episode. If you guys ever want to come in and see where we film and record this, or come check out the studio, we're in the heart of Franklin, Tennessee. Come check out Creative Studios, man. We're here every single day from 11 to 10. And this will be the end of the episode, but we would love to catch you again next time. And thank you so much for joining us.